Greetings, Internet, and welcome to another mildly interesting episode of Real Debate. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. Joining me this week is John.
Hey.
And Nate.
Loktar!
Yes, as Nate is given away, we are reviewing Warcraft.
Zug.
A game that I've been addicted to for most of my life. And it had a movie come out a few years ago that I have a major soft spot for. But that doesn't mean I can't think critically about it.
Man, I was fanboying so much over all the orcs in the background that I was noticing. I know we had one person sitting in between us, and we're just like sitting there whispering, like, "Oh my god, that's Blade Fist and that's Grom and whatnot." So, total fanboy.
I mean, my notes include, "Oh my god, Kargath Blade Fist, Kilrog Deadeye, Black Hand, Grom Hell Scream." Horde for life, by the way.
Yep. Glory to the Sindorai. Baladash, Balanore. Phenomenal Shah!
Oh, God.
To be fair, every time an expansion comes out, I scream at the top of my lungs, "For the Horde!"
For the Horde.
So,
I, for one, am okay with our Banshee Overlord.
I don't know about that.
And I've been playing Warcraft 3 since it came out in, 98? And...
No, that was 2001 at least? Or was it 2003?
No, because in World of Warcraft come 2004?
Yeah, that was 2004, so Warcraft 3 was 2001, and I don't know when Frozen Throne came out.
I think it was like a year or two after that.
Yeah, that was when expansion packs came out quickly.
Anyway, we have been Blizzard fanboys for a very long time.
Yep.
So this was a very good treat, and
before that, we fanboyed over StarCraft.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's more my bread and butter.
Yeah. Well, I love the book. I know it was before Lord of the Clans, I think, that they go and they talk with Khadgar and Medivh, and they really fill out their side of this story that they're showing, rather than the very quick arc that they go through.
All right, so what do we got for this battle?
So the battle begins with the humans performing a disorganized charge into the larger, stronger orc ranks, with the only seeming advantage of a couple of hand cannons. Naturally, this gets them almost immediately surrounded, and the humans push their way to the dark portal and use the stairs as a choke point and start alternating gunfire while evacuating citizens through the dark portal.
Well, so kind of a counterpoint to the disorganized charge. By that time, Gul'dan had opened it up to Draenor, so orcs were flowing through on that side, so they were surrounded anyway, and they were just trying to get a foothold anywhere they could.
I couldn't have waited till I finished this.
No.
Powering through it quite well. Eventually, the portal fails, and the ground wizards and humans are almost slaughtered to a man.
The what wizards?
The ground wizards.
What's a ground wizard?
Well, it's the opposite of a space wizard.
Oh, I gotcha.
The space wizards are Jedis, and we just got done with that.
I had to make a joke about them being ground wizards because they kind of made everything bad about this. This entire situation occurred because ground wizards are assholes.
Also, yes.
But space goats are pretty cool. They.
I thought you hated goats.
Oh yeah. Look, we're not talking about the discrepancies of my personal life.
I will show you goats standing on the backs of horses to get at apples, goddammit, and you will like it.
That does sound pretty cute.
It is adorable. Especially when they start screaming like humans. Like that, except for less you.
Man, we got off topic very fast.
I think that's the charm of this particular podcast, though. Because I'm keeping most of this in.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the humans didn't know that the portal was going to change to Stormwind, where they could
They did. That was the plan.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Well, we didn't have time to watch the entire movie today because we're trying to get a few of these cranked out.
That was the plan, and it was a bit of a risky move, in my opinion, because there wasn't necessarily a guarantee that was going to be able to happen, so they were banking their entire forces on the fact that they could pull that off.
They had plot armor, though.
Well, At the time, they thought they could talk sense into Medivh, not forcefully murder him.
Mm-hmm. Crush him under the weight of his...
Murder quotations.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was asking for it.
They just repossessed his soul.
Disorganized charges utterly annoy me. I know this was kind of supposed to be a wedge formation pushing into the orcs, but like, to me, a proper rank and file charge always looks cooler because it's just, moving in unison, prepared in unison, not shove the guy in front of you and charge at the enemy.
And it's something that Lothar even goes into is these guys are way stronger than us, work together and work smart. And I feel like they just kind of threw that out the window just to have the individual fights that a lot of movies like to do, but
it looks better from a movie standpoint because if you use CG to put things in formation, it looks a little too unison. So they have to kind of take these shots with the people in close range, close-in shots of the battle to be able to get it to where to kind of capture the essence of it through a camera. Because if there's one thing that's worse than a disorganized charge, it's bad CG charge.
yeah. I mean, if Blizzard was in charge of this and they just did an entire CG show like they do with any of their trailers or cinematics, would have been 100% okay with that.
Yeah. A couple points I'd like to bring up that I thought were pretty good from the Allied side was, for one, waiting until they were in close enough range for the guns to actually do damage, as those are not very long-range weapons.
Yeah, they're almost like blunderbusses.
Yeah, they are. And any type of powder gun like that, you're not going to have a terrible, long, effective range, especially against something as big and hardy as an orc.
To be fair, there was a big flood of them, so whatever they fired would have hit something, but with orcs, they're very tough, so waiting for them to be close is to get a kill shot is important because...
Not to mention that they wouldn't have had time to train the troops in firing arcs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because most of the troops were just point shoot, and since they were waiting till close range, they were almost guaranteed to hit, versus if they were doing it at long range, you'd have to teach them, okay, aim the gun up this high and you're going to hit an orc, hopefully.
Yeah, I did like that the guys shooting were above the people in the back and that there were people reloading for them because...
Yes, a classic firing formation is one guy reloads, one guy shoots, and hand it back and forth. This was... somewhat common right up until first rank fire, second rank fire, and the Mad Minute.
Yeah.
Which, the Mad Minute is such a very... How do I word this? It is the epitome of training and how a modern army should fight when using single-shot weapons.
That's what the British were really good at. They were a small professional army that were good at what they did, or they're great at what they did.
You don't conquer most of the globe if you're not good at what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, contrary to one of the points I said before, is we didn't see a lot of shields on the Alliance side, and I think that's...
they were running gun and shield in hand.
Okay. One of the things that stood out to me was one of the guys had like a pole arm that had a handle that was like 3 feet long, good for stabbing. And that would be especially good against the orcs because then you can maneuver yourself and not have to be weighed down by a shield, because we saw earlier that the orcs just broke through those shields right away and stunned.
Yeah, and those shields weren't very large enough to be able to create a proper phalanx either.
Yeah, it's not like the orcs had any ranged weapons either.
No. There's more just for deflecting blades and weapons and things like that.
But that was never what, grunts did. They always just got in people's faces, bloodlusted and whatnot. It wasn't until the modernization in Thrall's horde, or maybe the Iron Horde, that they started using more technology. These guys were definitely brutes for what they were.
They use goblins for their technology.
Mm-hmm.
Never rely on goblin technology.
Yep.
The other thing that was good that the Alliance did was using that wedge formation to cut a swath through the forces and push their way to the portal. That was an effective tactic. And then also being able to light on fire and topple over some of those towers that were there
Yeah.
to kind of funnel the orcs in more to a more defensible position, so that way they could get the prisoners out as quickly as possible.
Yep.
I did like how the orcs quickly realized that go around the portal and try to ambush them, and they were only stopped because the magic was stopping them.
which was freaking amazing. I love that scene where there's like bashing against it. It's like, why won't you die? We want to hit you in face.
Well, no, as the games have shown, if you hit the portal enough times, it'll just break.
Try hitting it harder.
Also, this always annoys me in movies is where the fictional king goes, "Oh, but a king is nothing without his peasants or without his people. I must do everything I can to protect them." Well, almost any given historical king would be in the peasants. Ha!
Well, this is a fictional king that the Rin family line. They're definitely known for being noble and caring for their people. We see Varian go out in a blaze of glory, and Anduin, his grandson, definitely care about peace more and the prosperity and livelihood of their people over
Yeah,
others.
it just annoys me that fictional kings do this, while historical kings rarely did.
Yeah.
There was usually a lot more power struggle that went on, and so they had to be that. And with fictional kings, they're just kind of put in there, and unless
Anyone who's trying to get them off the throne is usually evil.
yeah,
Unless you're getting into Game of Thrones, and that's
Arthas.
Arthas does a very good job of getting his father off the throne.
yeah, via murder. To be fair, his father didn't see that coming a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been a mile away walking at him with his sword, and his father would have been going, "Oh, my son!"
Well, I mean, yeah,
That's literally what happened.
yeah. They literally threw a parade and had flower petals falling with him coming, and this is where the iconic scene of a petal landing in his hand and it, rots,
Yeah.
Wilts.
wilts.
I have to be that asshole.
You're just so pedantic today.
Yeah, you deserve it.
Isn't that the point of the show?
Are you being pedantic about my pedantry?
Yeah.
I think we need pedantometers.
Yeah. Put it in a little corner of the screen.
It'll be our version of the Krillin owned count.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like the gigalometer for anime. Or the spot the main character. That's the one with the spiky hair.
So, any talking points about the orcs as far as their strategy or complete lack thereof?
I mean, like
It was a complete lack thereof. They were doing what they did best, is send overwhelming numbers of physically stronger people at the enemy.
like I said, this isn't Thrall's horde. They were definitely not intelligent at all. They were just, I might hit you in the face.
They had obviously been drinking deep from the green Kool-Aid.
Absolutely.
So they were in a bloodlust.
Yeah, Gul'dan didn't really seem to be doing much of anything throughout that fight. I think he could have been utilized a lot better as far as strategy.
He did just get out of a Mak'gora against Duratan.
Which
And a lot of the orcs were... Was it before or after the scene, actually? It might have been after, but...
it was before, because the Mak'gora against Blackhand and Lothar happens after, and that's the climax of it.
Yeah, and basically the orcs were beginning to shun Gul'dan, and he would probably have been forced out of the horde if they weren't attacked, and he wasn't needed to start opening the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's probably the point where he was starting to think about, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Apt reference.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no more notes on this movie. Do you have any more talking points?
Nope, I'm ready to rate.
Yeah, I am too.
Nate, what would you rate this movie?
I mean, the movie, I loved
Excuse me, the tactics and battle plans of the forces.
I mean, the Alliance, they were relying on their plot armor, which they had to so they were playing around their win condition for the fight. So they get props for that, but I mean the disorganized charge and not fit using their strengths against the orcs as much at the beginning, but near the end they were doing well. So I'll give them like a B- or something. And the orcs, I mean, I'm gonna give them an F, but that's because they're not smart. Like they succeed in brute strength, but they didn't go to orc college. There is no orc school. It's their orc school is me punch you in face.
Yeah.
I find that offensive. As a horde player,
Am I wrong though?
yeah, because orcs have wizards.
Well, one.
They actually do have access to mages, so
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any.
Well, not in this stage of the story.
Not in this stage of the storyline. It's way later.
Yeah,
that they
because
start
it's
getting them.
it's the war song.
It wasn't until Cataclysm that they started going to college.
Yeah. The orcs came through with only 4 clans, and that was the war song, the Bleeding Hollow, the Laughing Skull, and the Frost Wolves. And so none of them are.
Shattered Hand.
Oh yeah, the Shattered Hand is there as well because Kargath Bladefist, and he's my favorite. The warlords out there, because
You just love the Kargath tickle fight.
yeah, I have.
He died off too early.
He really did, but I have his Bladefist as a transmog. It's really cool. It's just running around as a small blood elf, with giant fists ready to stab you.
Jeez.
Domo arigato, Fister Roboto.
Me like to fist.
Gross. Too much information.
Like I said, the orcs aren't that smart. They just see things and decide to punch them. And if they don't have enemies around them, then they're most likely going to turn on themselves, which they kind of did towards Gul'dan. So, yeah.
Yeah, they clearly weren't prepared for the attack at all anyways. They had the prisoners kind of scattered all over the place. There was no real defenses set up. They just saw humans and attacked.
Look, you can go to Orgrimmar and work with their infrastructure and talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go over well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'll have to rate the Alliance as an A as far as proper utilization of the weaponry that they had, good formation, setting up defensible positions, taking a gambit and having it pay off. Overall, I thought they did pretty good. I mean, I would have liked to see a little more diversity of forces and equipment, but overall, using what they did, I thought they used it quite well. And then
I would have liked to see, the Kirin Tor help them out with, spells, or maybe some priests in there to help heal.
That would have been way too many subplots in an already 2-hour movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they cut out the trolls from this movie, and they didn't even CG them up. Like,
The trolls weren't part of it.
no, the trolls were a part of the First War.
No, second.
Yeah, they were part of the Second War.
They were making the diplomatic ties in the first one then, but they had planned scenes for them in it.
Okay. But they also cut out the Chris Metzen cameo anyway, so.
And then
They got rid of Green Jesus?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Green
they did.
Jesus?
and then the orcs, I have to rate an F, solid F minus, because as a seasoned Warcraft player of the old games, they failed to capitalize on their greatest strength. They didn't tower rush the humans.
Build more burrows.
I thought the primary advantage was sending in a bunch of ogre magi who cast bloodlust.
Nah, man, tower rush. That's how you always win.
Mm-hmm. Or using a blade master and having him stealth in, take out some workers, and just do hit and run tactics while you build up.
Yeah, that's Warcraft 3. I'm talking Warcraft 2, man.
Yeah.
I didn't play Warcraft 1. I was way too young for that game. That came out.
Matey.
That came out in what, 94? So I would have been
I think
4.
younger than that.
Yeah, it was early 90s.
Because didn't they start production in like '89 when they were
Something
having
like that.
problems with
Diablo.
because they were talking with Games Workshop and
We're not getting into that discussion because that gets really weird.
well, because they were planning on making a game based off the Warhammer Fantasy, and then they kind of scrapped it and then made their own thing from it.
Yep.
So this is a tough one because while the humans were going for their win conditions, it wasn't until the latter half that they succeeded, and on top of that, they pretty much were wiped out to a man. On top of losing their leadership. So I almost have to give them a D for that. Like, yeah, they succeeded at their win condition, but they lost the king, they lost a lot of troops in the process, and they only saved some civilians, which I don't want to be that guy. No, I want to be that guy. Civilians aren't as important.
Yeah, but the sacrifice of the king prevented one of the other orcs from getting more clout within the horde.
And the orcs, I got to give them a D.
Wow.
If not an F. It's a tough call because on the one hand, they didn't have defensive structures set up. Well, I mean, they had plenty of towers, and they did have a guy almost immediately call enemies incoming, but they weren't completely ready for an attack, which I don't blame them. That at no point in this movie did the humans give them a reason to think that they were being challenged.
Well, the one scene where they go out and fight him in the ravine, they kind of challenged them there, but they were already prepared for that.
Yeah, but up till that point, the orcs had won almost every skirmish, so they were being cocky. And the orcs, all in all, were trying to use their primary tactic, and unfortunately, they were in a situation where their numbers meant very little.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have come across the human blunderbusses or hand cannons much before anyway, so they didn't have the padding. They were just running around in very light leather or bare chested.
The only time that they had been encountered beforehand was when Black Hand lost a hand.
Yeah.
And they were going to execute him for cowardice.
But that's my strong hand.
So I believe that's about it. Yeah, so what do you think? Let us know in the comments. Are we blithering idiots? Are we on to something? Is there something we missed? Let us know.
Blood and thunder.
My life for ire! I mean, Ner'zhul!